Welcome to Shake Out Your Sleeves and Go. Support for discovering deep joy through the subtle profundity of the Zen way. I'm Dosho, and I'm here today with David Daeun Rynick Roshi, who lives in Worcester, Mass. And teaches with the Boundless Way Zen. David received Dharma transmission in both the Korean Rinzai lineage through Zen Master George Bowman and in the Japanese Soto lineage through James Myolan Ford Roshi. He's the author of two really good books. One, Wandering Close to Home, a year of reflections, of Zen reflections, consolations, and reveries, and also This Truth Never Fails, a memoir in 4 seasons. Both lovely, lovely books. I'll post those too. David is also a life and leadership coach who works with spiritual leaders from many different traditions, as well as with individuals seeking to align their lives with their deepest wisdom. Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. It's so good to have you here with us. Thank you for agreeing to do this.
A delight. Fun to be here. I look forward to what emerges in our conversation.
Yeah, so let's have fun. David and I were going to have an informal talk. We get together and chat regularly, and this was our time for doing that. And I slyly, wild foxedly, coerced him into making it into a interview. So tell us a little how you got into Zen practice. I sometimes say, how did a nice person like you wind up in a path like this?
Yeah, right. Well, of course, it all starts off with not being a nice person for me. Uh, well, and actually, my dad was a Presbyterian minister who had an image of God as someone who was quite immediate. He was not so much into the doctrine and philosophy, but had this image of some kind of sacred quality of life that always appealed to me. But when I went to university, I kind of fell away from that kind of path and grew more and more disillusioned with life. I was at a brand name university in the East Coast here and was quite successful in most of what I was doing. And I felt miserably unhappy. And this was my junior year. Things were going really badly. And I had, in the middle of this, an experience of the unity of all things. It kind of took me by surprise in the middle of my desperation and loneliness, that I knew for certain that we are all connected and that we are part of this vast oneness that appears as living and dying, coming and going. And that transformed my life. And I tried to talk about it with some Christian clergy on the campus. And they had heard of it and read about it, but had no firsthand experience. And this transformation for me was so vivid and lasted weeks and months. But over time, it gradually faded away. And I was quite disillusioned in some way. And it was several years after that, I had pretty much given up on this whole spiritual thing. It seemed to me the spiritual journey was about the ego and bolstering the ego, and that clearly wasn't right. But I heard a Zen teacher talk. I heard Richard Clark, who was a renegade Dharma heir of Philip Kaplow. And I knew that he knew what I knew. He spoke of awakening, and he spoke of oneness and two-ness, and spoke right to my heart. And he said, there's a way to follow this path, and that way is sitting still and shutting up. And so I decided I would do this, but I knew myself well enough to know that if I committed too hard, too fast, it would just wash away in the wind. So I decided I would meditate for 2 minutes a day, and I would set my little timer. And by the end of 2 minutes, I would be jumping out of my skin. It was so intense for me. But I persisted and, went to weekly meditation, listened to his talks, and started doing Teisho. So it was probably 10 years before meditation was more than just taking my medicine. I hear stories about people coming to meditation. Oh, it's so wonderful and I love it. It was not that way for me, but it was clear that this was a way to face myself and to move beyond my opinion. And so I'm also quite a stubborn person. So that has helped me enormously to continue on this path.
I've always liked that about you. And
My stubbornness.
yeah, and scroll down the road, many decades, and
Yeah.
here you are with a transmission from two different lineages, from George and James. So, what's I think of how in ancient China there's I forget his name right now, but somebody received transmission from Lin Chi and one of the women Zen masters, whose name I also forget right now. But and he would say that I received one scoop from her and one scoop from him. So
Yeah.
what is it that you received from George, and what is it that you received from James?
Well, it's sort of butter pecan and chunky monkey.
George has got to be Chunky Monkey.
Yeah, that's true. I do think. Yeah, so I studied with Richard Clark for about 8 or 10 years and then left his organization and began studying with George in the early 90s. And really still consider George my primary teacher. And his way, he had studied and received, been one of Sung San's first Dharma heirs. But he was and is an iconoclast. Did not really want to be part of any organization that would have him, and was also clear that the point of Zen is not to have a big organization and be a teacher, but he was just absolutely clear the point of Zen is to sit in Zazen. And his great love for this still inspires me. And so he would lead these little retreats in people's houses, and there'd be 10 or 15 of us, and we would sit hard and a lot of silence and incredible intimacy. Um, and so from George, the teaching is no path, no ladders, no skillful means, but how will you manifest it in this moment? Um, so great energy, great spirit of heading right into the great matter. And that was I received my first transmission from him. And a little before that, I started teaching with James Ford. James and my wife, Melissa Myozen Blacker, and I founded Boundless Way Zen. Prior to that, Melissa and I had begun teaching just a small group. There was nothing happening around Worcester at that time. And I had asked for George's permission to teach before receiving transmission. And he said, well, if you speak from your own experience, you probably won't damage too many people. That was his blessing. I said, thank you. And so I have tried to follow that. But anyway, Melissa and I had led a group that was growing and was quite vibrant. Even before we had transmission, she had received permission to teach too. And James Ford said, let's get together and we'll be the guiding teachers. Um, and which was quite generous of him. Neither one of us were officially transmitted teachers, but he recognized us in that way. And so, working with James, one, I was introduced to the whole koan curriculum.
Hmm.
With George, essentially, we did study koans. In fact, the first koan I ever studied with George was how do you manifest your Buddha nature when you are riding a mountain bike down a hill at 40 miles an hour? Um, and it took me not so long to figure that one out. Uh, but anyway, James introduced me to the Yasutani Harada Koan curriculum, which he received from John Tarrant um, and Robert Aitken. And George was sort of the vertical, only one thing. And James is this incredible Dharma light of the horizontal, kind of every day. He would make jokes during sesshin, during the breaks, and want to talk about TV shows. And so I think from James, one, being introduced to the koan curriculum and seeing the possibilities of that, but two, a kind of generosity and ease. It doesn't all have to be full effort all the time in that way. Yeah.
That's lovely. You know, I, one of the things that's so different about George and James is that George's Dharma talks are just kind of, I don't think he prepares at all, and anything can happen. And he goes into the depths of his psyche. And James is very organized and kind of ministerial. And
Yeah.
I don't know if he still does, but he used to write them out
Oh,
and kind of read the talks. So they were like
yeah.
complete opposites in that way.
Yeah. At one point, we talked about George being John Coltrane of Dharma talks. You just don't know.
I
Uh,
think that's very fitting. I love them. And with Boundless Way, a few things. I'm just briefly touching on koan work generally for folks that might be listening that would appreciate some sense of what do you do with a student? Why do you why would a student want to take up a koan?
yeah.
And why would you want to give them one?
Yeah. Um, well, the koan tradition is such a big part of our Zen tradition, starting in medieval China and these great koan collections, the Wu Men Guan and the Book of Easy Going, Blue Cliff Record. Um, and so we talk about them a lot. And when we do retreats, we will often pick a koan to look into. So students coming to Boundless Way will hear these stories, and they are these very small stories that we use as a way to look into what it means to be a human being. And so when students come to us, we teach them breath practice and keep it very simple. And oftentimes people think of this as a beginning practice, but for me, breath practice has been my main practice for 40 some years now and continues to surprise me. So a student will hear about koans and may ask, say, how do you do it? And we actually have a very prescribed curriculum of koans, starting with the Does a Dog Have Buddha Nature? Koans about Mu, some miscellaneous koans, and then these different collections. And what I'm looking for in a student who asks to do koans is some stability of practice. Um, that there are many dangers in koan work, and one is that it becomes some kind of intellectual exercise and can actually distract us from the main point. The main koan, of course, is you and me. The main koan is breathe in and out, manifest your Buddha nature. How do you do this? Um, so I look for some stability of practice, um, and some settled quality and commitment to the way, and also willingness to show up. The koan curriculum, you really need a teacher. I would say that in breath practice, you really need a teacher. Otherwise, there are many ways practice so quickly becomes a strategy to avoid things. So anyway, that's what I look for, and what students I think are, what is this all about? They hear the responses and begin to wonder.
So, does it work? I mean, does a person of great koan practice still fall under karma or not?
Yeah.
To kind of jump ahead a little bit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Does it work, and what does it work for? What do you say about that?
Well, I think basically it doesn't work, but it can be useful. Uh, to come to koans and think that somehow you're going to get something you don't have. The danger of koan systems, especially one as organized as ours, you can work on these koans and you can get past. And well, I've done all of the Mu cycle koans, and um, the danger is you think you're getting somewhere. And I think from George, a teacher who I revere greatly and feel like has plumbed the depths and practiced as hard as anyone I know over decades and decades,
Me
um,
too.
his insistence on being a beginner, his insistence on we're all in the same place right here, and that there is no end to human blindness. And in fact, just this morning, I told the story of a conversation with him early on where I was very upset about something. And he listened very kindly for a little while and then said, "You don't expect your Zen practice to save you from your life, do you?" And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I was hoping." Uh, so the koans will not make you a different person, but koans can increase your flexibility and adaptability. There's a way that koans are a playful inquiry and are wonderful at defeating the intellect. And so, with a guide and in relationships, these stories are stories of you and me. And I found going through the koan curriculum with James and now teaching this, going through the same koan over and over again, that I'm constantly surprised and constantly seeing it from some new angle. And so when a student comes in and is working on a koan, there is a particular way we want to see them be able to enter in. But there's so many ways to enter in there that I'm always surprised that, oh, there you could see it this way. And so on the deepest level, there's no such thing as passing a koan. Uh, yeah.
I think that's a good place to move into the case at hand. Record of going easy, or you said the record of easy going. It could be that way too. But the way I've been doing it is record of going easy.
Going easy.
So
Okay.
going modifies.
You go easy, all easy go, right?
All right.
Yeah.
And it's we got both sides of the thing here too. But I'd invite you to share this koan with us in your own words, if you like. This story, and this story is shorter than the one in the Muman Khan. So
Yeah.
would you do that for us? Tell us the
Yeah.
story of Bǎizhàng and the wild fox.
So just before I do that, I want to look into an interesting point because we ask people to memorize the koan.
Mm-hmm.
And although Zen purports to be a transmission outside of letters and words, this is a literary tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And we're working with you sent your translation, which I quite like. So often we will ask the student to memorize so that they can recite this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just noticing that working on the specific words is different than just telling the story.
Yeah. Well, you can
Right.
do it either way.
Okay. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can do it either way. Yeah.
Um,
However you'd like to do it.
okay. Let me read what your translation, because I think it's a
Okay.
lovely way in and gives us this common starting point. When Baijiang went to the hall, there was always an old man listening to the Dharma. Then the old man would follow the crowd out as they left. One day he did not go out. Baijiang, who's the great teacher, asked him, "Who is the person standing here?" The old man said, "In the past, in the time of Kashapa Buddha, I lived on this mountain. A practitioner asked me, 'Does a person of great practice still fall under karma or not?' I answered them saying, 'They don't fall under karma.' With this, my body turned into a wild fox for 500 lives. Now I ask you, Venerable, please say a turning word for me." Baijiang said, "They don't obscure karma." At these words, the old man greatly awakened.
Thank you. Such a lovely little story.
Yeah.
And we have here, this thing. One of the key points, in my view, would be that he says that a person of great practice does not fall under karma. And that seems to be a wrong answer, as then he has, ironically, some karmic retribution. The story is so wonderful and all these little twists and turns that are
Yeah.
built into it.
Yeah.
No, you don't fall into karma. 500 lives of
Right.
karma as a
Yeah,
fox.
right.
But
Get it? Get it?
in the
But
Buddha, get it? In the Buddha Dharma, and could cite a lot of people in the Buddha Dharma saying that the actual point of practice is to not fall under karma. Dogen's teacher, for instance, tells him in Hokkyoki, which is a text I'm really into these days. By the way, you know how I am. And Ruching says, as for those with karmic hindrances, which I think is kind of an odd structure, but those people with karmic hindrances, when doing vigorous, diligent practice, they certainly will be transformed. In other words, they won't fall under karma.
well, no, he's not saying that.
All right. How do you
So
see it?
they will. So I could agree with him if we talk about what it means to be transformed.
Okay.
It's easy to think that to imagine this transformation, and I think almost everyone who comes to Zen has heard about enlightenment and
Mm-hmm.
has some kind of image of what it is, and usually it's pretty wonderful.
The
Um,
images, yeah.
the images, yes. I mean, enlightenment is too. Um, but in our language, we have this word enlightenment, but it is not a thing. When I started practice, I definitely wanted to have a repeat awakening. I wanted to feel like this. I wanted to go back there. And slowly over time, I began to see that the point is not about achieving some mental state or some state of being. In fact, what we find as we practice is that it comes and goes. And again, going back to George, again, who was so accomplished and so deep and insightful in his Dharma, he was quite honest about his personal struggles, about the difficulty waking up in the morning sometimes, getting out of bed, very unflinching in that, which
It's
was
one of my memories of a George Dharma talk is that he
uh,
starts out by saying, I got up this morning and I could hardly get out of bed. And then, I dragged myself to the little kitchen they have here for me. And there was a cup of coffee and I drank it down. And then I felt like
right. A real presentation of how it is. And you mentioned my books, and in both my books, they're short essays and reflections where I really try to talk about how it is, which is not always, hearts and flowers. This was the Buddha's first teaching that we can't avoid difficulty. But I do think that as we practice, uh, uh, again, George used to say, our miserable karma becomes transformed into our wonderful dharma. But the karma is still there, daily life, everyday life. But there is a possibility of meeting it in some new way. And this possibility does not fixate as a thing or a land where you dwell.
so what is it that is transformed? They certainly will be transformed. What then does it mean to be transformed through vigorous, diligent practice?
Yeah. Well, the delusion of separation is so persistent and so deeply ingrained. It is so clear to almost all of us human beings that I am here and the world is there. There are two kinds of people. There's me and there's all the other people. And that separation is simply how the mind perceives reality. Um, and without vigorous practice, the force of that delusion, we might say the karmic force of that delusion, just carries us down the stream. And we're left without being able to touch what is actually true. And what is actually true is that we are intertwined so deeply. There is no such thing as an individual human being. There is nothing but verb. There are no nouns actually. And so this diligent practice allows us to see for ourselves, to touch and taste something beyond our opinion.
I'm inclined to move right to the verse.
Okay,
Do you have the verse there? Would you
I do.
read the verse for us too? You did such a nice job with the case, and you're here, so I don't have to work hard. Could you?
That's good. Yeah, and it's nice to hear your own words back. And
It
actually,
is.
I did give a Dharma talk this morning at Boundless Way where I read this and
Oh,
reflected on it,
oh,
knowing we were going to be talking.
oh, nice. Thanks for telling me.
Yeah, but this is a Tao Wan. Let's see. Now, where is the verse?
Yeah, that's a little. It starts out one small wave, one big wave.
Yes, here it is, the verse. One small wave, one big wave. 500 lives endured in vain. Not falling under, not obscuring, they haggle, still dashing into a nest of entangled vines. Hey, hey, hey. Yes, yes. If you are pure and unattached, you'll sound like children playing. Duo, duo, hey, hey. Surely the spirits will sing, the gods of the land will dance. Sing, clap your hands.
One of the things I noticed in, working through these, especially while translating it, was that often Tiantong, Hongzhi, would often have verses which, well, he did both. Sometimes they're just brilliantly kind of flow from the koan,
Yeah.
and sometimes they're quite different. And for
Mhm.
me, this verse is quite different
Yes.
because the koan has these, ghoulish
Yeah.
occult figures, and he brings in children and village songs and dancing, and
Yeah.
it's not like the agony of being a wild fox living in the mud for 500 years.
Right.
It's clap your hands and sing.
Yeah.
So, that said, he has these two lines: not falling under, not obscuring, they haggle. You know, so he seems to be equating these two dimensions of not falling, not haggling, or not obscuring. Do you agree so far?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then still dashing into a nest of entangling vines. So there's an equation of the two,
Yeah.
of being
Yeah.
free from karma and of falling under karma.
Well, uh, he doesn't say being free of karma. It's not
Falling under
obscuring,
and not obscuring.
not
Thank you.
obscuring. Yes.
Thank you. Not falling under and not obscuring.
Yeah.
Now, Dogen, in one of his takes on this koan, the Wild
Yeah.
Fox koan, goes through, Yuan Wu and Da Hui and numerous other great masters, and says that none of them got it. you know, Zen teachers for a long time, nobody else gets it. And Tiantong, who he calls an old Buddha, he says he also is denying causation by equating not falling under and not obscuring. So, what do you say about that?
I think Dogen was pretty shallow in his understanding of this. It's clear
He
that he had
did,
not penetrated deeply enough into the great matter. Yeah, he too is contending,
yeah.
right? Uh, and you and I have talked. Zen teachers, we tend to be rather critical of each other and other ways. The one true way often is just happens to be our way. Um, but I see that the point is not some philosophical thing here. I mean that the danger in all these koans. Okay, so let's talk about karma and let's talk about is there such a thing as free will, or that's not the Zen way. And I think koans are wonderful in cutting through some of that. And I think Hongzhi in particular has in his use of imagery, so he goes to children, goes to the immediacy of that. Um, and in some way, of course, offers that to us, not a state that is separate from the suffering and the real difficulty of being human, but yet in the midst of it, not transcending it, and not getting lost in having an opinion. George again used to say, the cost of entry into the moment is your opinion, right? I
Yeah.
don't want it to be like this. I want it to be like this.
So is Hongzhi denying karma in this verse or not?
Um, I think he's moving beyond the question into a kind of suchness. Karma is just an idea we have. I don't think he's denying it. But uh, somewhere the Buddha said anyone who takes an opinion for or against something is not a disciple, not a true disciple. And yet we have, for many opinions, you and I and our
Are
ilk.
you saying that Dogen here is not a disciple of the Buddha?
Yeah.
Trying to get into a haggle with you, man.
That's right. Yeah.
So, how about anything else? How about,
Well,
anything about koan work particular or this koan that you think it's important
one
for
of the
people?
as I've been thinking about this koan over the last couple of days, thinking about this conversation, thinking about the old man coming with his complaint. You know, his complaint, look, I made a mistake and my life was ruined. And how often people come to me and say, you know, I am deficient in this way, I'm not smart enough, or I don't really get it. And how easy it is for us human beings to imagine that where we are is wrong. For me, practice and the koan work is about being honest with what's here, and the fact that the difficulty in our life is the resource. So someone comes to me and says, "Oh, I'm just so stuck," and I'll say, "Well, congratulations, you're beginning practice now." Right? And these, and of course, we're all stuck in these karmic places from our parents and their parents, from our culture, and we can make the same mistake over and over again. You know, we are all foxes. Um, and that these mistakes are the entry point. And if we can bear them,
Yeah, I hadn't appreciated that about the koan before, but there's this pattern in the koan as there is in our lives and working with students,
yeah.
where sit with the breath that's full and complete. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because I know this could not be it.
Yeah,
And that certainty.
not falling under. You got anything else? You know.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. Well, and I think Hakuin in one point and some other people say, you know, is anything lacking now? And I remember my first teacher once giving a Dharma talk that just, he said, find what's lacking right now and bring it to me. You know, and we're so convinced something is lacking that we're moving beyond this moment into some other place to try to find it. The other thing I want to say about koans is that the great part of koan work is the getting stuck. If you work on koans in a serious way, most of your time will be spent scratching your head. What? And part of training in koans is training in bearing this place of not knowing. Like we Zen people talk about not knowing, and it sounds really cool. Oh, yeah, not knowing is most intimate. But in reality, it's very hard to bear. And so we're training in being alive in caring. I mean, there's a, well, I don't care, so I don't know. But when you care and you don't know, it's quite vigorously alive, I would say.
Those 500 lives as a fox,
Yes, yeah.
being reborn again and again and not understanding this damn
Yes.
koan. What is it? Yeah.
I, I have to tell one more George story, which was coming
Please.
into him in the middle of a retreat. And I was just beside myself. I was
Hmm.
just, you know, I was on my 499th life as a fox and just desperate and discouraged. And I was in tears and just fell apart. And he just let me fall apart and then looked at me and smiled and bowed me out. And clearly, as I was walking out, I realized he was quite pleased with that presentation. And I
Your
thought,
presentation.
my presentation,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, because I was not holding back. I was not gaming the system. I was all in, and I had a moment of, oh, this this is it. Why didn't he tell me that in the first place?
I know just what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, record of going easy, case 8, Bǎizhàng's Wild Fox. Thank you so much, David. This was fun. I'm very grateful for you coming in and doing this.
Yeah, they'll show a pleasure. Thank you.